All right, folks. Hello and welcome back. We are in round 3 of our coverage here of the CardArt local in Sunnyvale, California. Here, I'm Zach.
Still Ben.
Still Ben. Yeah, we haven't changed anything quite yet. One thing we have changed is we have changed who we are featuring on our round 3 stream here. So I think let's just dive into the teams because there's some pretty cool ones. These might be some faces if you've watched some of our streams before that you might have seen. Going to jump into the team preview. So we are featuring Kobe versus Jourdan. Kobe was the person that got second at our last local. They are switching up the Lake Trio Pixie they're using this time. Last time they had Mesprit. This time we'll see if Uxie can go all the way and claim the winning title here. Very similar team rounding it out, and Jourdan having a very interesting team of his own.
Yes, we've got a Landorus, a Rillaboom, a Grimmsnarl, Iron Bundle, Gholdengo, and Urshifu. That is going to be the single strike?
Yeah, the single strike Dark
Yes,
Urshifu.
single strike on the side of Jourdan. Both of these teams have a lot of offense in certain places.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting to see how they match up. Jourdan team looks like the kind of team that would have a Tornadus, right? It's got that specs Gholdengo and the single strike Urshifu and a Rillaboom. It makes sense that it would have a Tornadus, but instead using Grimmsnarl for more of that support with the likes of Scary Face. Have that covert cloak, going to be able to stop that Iron Hands from going for anything like Fake Out to slow it down. Of course, Uxie doing the lovely Draining Kiss Mystical Power combination that Mesprit was used last time. How these teams match up as we dive into the game here, and we are seeing the patented, I think is fair to say, Gholdengo and Grimmsnarl lead against the less patented Uxie Iron Hands lead from Kobe.
Not so patented at all, I would say. Uxie and Iron Hands well, it's an interesting spot. This is a choice specs Gholdengo, so Uxie, I would say, is immediately threatened with a lot of damage.
Uxie does have Terra Fairy, but of course, Make It Rain would rain on that parade, of course. Both of these Pokemon cannot be faked out, so Iron Hands fake out pressure is null and void on this turn.
Yeah, Iron Hands, this is critically an Iron Hands packing to move Volt Switch here, which is something that has fallen off use as of late, typically in favor of things like Heavy Slam, but Volt Switch really strong for play.
You're going to be able to position out here because this is a bit of an awkward spot, I think, for Kobe Jourdan as the better lead matchup here. Notably, this Grimmsnarl does not have screens, so it cannot get some free offensive buffs here. And Kingambit is kind of the perfect Pokemon to bring in here. It takes that Make It Rain pretty comfortably alongside the Iron Hand.
Big special attack drop there. Spirit Break from Grimmsnarl going to do actually really sizable damage into the Iron Hands. I shouldn't have been so quick to doubt it. Grimmsnarl is actually pretty strong. Wild Charge from Iron Hands doing a decent chunk to the Gholdengo here, but Kingambit getting in reasonably unscathed, and now is in a pretty solid spot.
Yep, this Grimmsnarl's only offensive option is that Scary Face, so if Grimmsnarl wants to do any damage at all to Kingambit, it has to hand over a free +2 attack boost as well. A little bit of a tricky proposition there, but Kingambit is definitely in a spot to threaten both Pokemon with either a Dark or Steel type move. Of course, it specializes in Iron Hands, in a little bit of an awkward spot, does not want to take yet another Spirit Break.
And worth noting, this is not a Swords Dance Kingambit. It is the reliable Dual Stab Sucker Punch effect that Iron Hand's going to switch out here, thinking it's probably accomplished all we can here. Landorus is going to switch in here. This is an Assault Vest. Landorus.
Oh, it's Choice Scarf.
No, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong team sheet. This
We'll
is a
have
choice.
Landorus.
This is a choice scarf Landorus. There are Landorus everywhere, and we do see a Terra come out. What else is new?
Yeah, the Gholdengo going to try to recover some of its special attack it lost from the Make It Rain the turn prior, going to Terastallize to that Steel type, and also crucially dropping the Dark weakness that it would otherwise be burdened with in this spot. Go for another Make It Rain, going to do pretty sizable damage against Landorus. Yeah, that's a big chunk, and even the Kingambit is brought into the yellow there. As the follow-up Spirit Break into that Landorus. The Intimidate not enough to save it as Landorus is swiftly KO'd on the switch-in.
Not quite enough. Grimmsnarl going on the offense this game hasn't done anything supportive, just trading blows with the opposing Pokemon because of the Terastallization. Gholdengo's able to survive the Kowtow Cleave, but now has to be wary of a potential Sucker Punch.
Sucker Punch definitely a enticing prospect here. I think one of the things Kobe can definitely leverage is that, yeah, this Grimmsnarl can't really do much to this Kingambit. Maybe it's in Spirit Break range, I'm not terribly sure, but at 2 stages of decreased special attack, Uxie might be in a spot to finally start setting up with things like that Mystical Power, or even that Draining Kiss to potentially hit that Grimmsnarl for super effective damage. Trick Room also on the table.
Yeah, I would say Uxie now is in a much better spot than it was in at the beginning of the game. Gholdengo significantly weakened. Grimmsnarl sure can taunt Uxie, but that will not stop Uxie from potentially taking a KO onto the Gholdengo here. Does not need to do that thanks to the critical hit Sucker Punch, and Terra is now off the table.
Yep, Gholdengo is gone, but man, did it do a lot of damage on its way on the field. And yeah, that taunt is going to stop the Trick Room from Uxie, so not going to be able to set that up. Would have been very helpful against this pretty pacey team from Jourdan. Grimmsnarl really holding it down. Definitely making a name for us, doing a lot better than I was expecting it to. And Landorus is going to hand over a Defiant Boost to this Kingambit. But Landorus is definitely in a pretty solid spot to do some pretty meaningful damage here.
He's definitely in a solid spot to do meaningful damage. Does still have to be wary of the now +1 Sucker Punch. Being as Grimmsnarl, lacking screens, is not going to be able to mitigate that in any way without accidentally buffing the Kingambit in the process. And Uxie being taunted means that it has to either go for an attack. It has to go for an attack onto one of these, or potentially switch out.
Kingambit, though, cannot be taunted thanks to that Dark type, preventing that Prankster taunt from working on it. Is going to be able to protect Landorus's stomping. No damage there. Let's see what Uxie target it prefers. He's going to go for the Mystical Power, but sadly, Mystical Power is not a 100% accurate move. Is going to miss the Landorus, so not a lot getting done there, except the Protect is blown on Kingambit.
Kingambit does keep itself safe for one more turn, but now has to make a decision. Does it go for the double protect? Does it switch out? Or does it try to get off one last Sucker Punch before it goes down here? Because I don't think it will be surviving the combination of Spirit Break and Stomping Tantrum from Landorus. And the Mystical Power miss is unfortunate. Could have possibly put Landorus in range for that Sucker Punch to take it out. Although this is an Assault Vest Landorus, so I don't think that would have been quite fair. Stomping Tantrum is going to pick up the Kingambit.
Yep, and Kingambit couldn't really safely switch. The Stomping Tantrum would have switched into the Iron Hands, and that would have been KO'd instead, so might as well just go get the +1 Sucker Punch while you can. Mystical Power not doing a whole lot of damage, but this is more of a slow burn Uxie. It'll eventually build up to some KOs. But the Spirit Break offsetting the Mystical Power boost, definitely going to hurt Uxie's eventual offensive pressure.
Although Uxie does have longevity in the form of leftovers. Taunt is now over. So now Grimmsnarl cannot say Taunt and Spirit Break on the same turn. So does have to decide whether they want to Taunt to stop the Trick Room or Spirit Break to offset a potential Mystical Power boost.
At this point, I still think Jourdan kind of has the reins in this game. Landorus could get faked out here, but we saw the Mystical Power damage. It's not in threat of a knockout, so something like a Stomping Tantrum with Iron Hands is pretty safe. Of course, Kobe has not Terra. They have the option to Terrastalize the Iron Hands, but save it from Stomping Tantrum for one turn. But at this point, it's probably in range from a U-turn as well, so that might just buy them only one turn. And Landorus not even going to play that game, so I'll just come back and intimidate you later. And you're going to see Wicked Bro come out. It's going to be yes, that Urshifu.
I think I could have called that as well. Fake out going into the Urshifu would break a Focus Sash, but it is not in fact Focus Sash. This is, I believe, yes, a Choice Band Urshifu. Mystical Power not going to do anything to 2 Dark types on the other side.
Yep, so Wicked Bro gets in without only taking that Fake Out chip damage, and now it can threaten a huge amount of damage with a Choice Banded Wicked Blow into that Uxie, kind of almost forcing a Terra Fairy out of it. The one thing is that now Uxie has 2 excellent targets for a Draining Kiss that it can go for, and it will be not only Terra boosted, but the Terra boosts the base power of lower than 60 base power moves, so Draining Kiss gets even stronger than most moves when Terrastalized.
Yeah, it's going to do quite a bit of damage here. I would say it's going to heal it up quite a lot, but it effectively hasn't taken any damage thanks to the Leftovers recovery there. Iron Hands does resist Wicked Blow, but is not going to want to take a Choice Band Wicked Blow, especially at this low HP range, so it is not safe either.
Iron Hand's in a bit of a tricky spot here. Both Pokemon could definitely get the KO here. And it's going to be all up to Uxie. It missed one Mystical Power. It's going to see if it's going to come back from that. Is going to Terastallize into the Fairy type. Going to dodge that weakness to Dark. But Urshifu is just playing it safe. Going to go straight for a U-turn. Not going to let that easy KO go to that Uxie. Iron Hands are going to stick around for a little bit longer, but a Spirit Break might be coming.
And even if not, Landorus does pivot in here, drop the Intimidate onto the Iron Hands, making it, fortunately for it, even less relevant in this particular game. You do see the Terra-boosted Draining Kiss now. Onto the Landorus. Does a decent chunk, but that Assault Vest, pretty meaningful.
He's going to heal up a little bit here, and we do see the Grimmsnarl with the follow-up Spirit Break. Super effective. Will be able to KO the Iron Hands. Grimmsnarl has been an absolute menace in this game.
Grimmsnarl's been incredibly annoying. It hasn't set a single screen because it can't do that. It hasn't clicked a single support move other than Taunt, because Fairy Face and Fake Tears are not going to do a whole lot into Kingambit, but it has been
really useful.
Incredibly useful this whole set, this whole game regardless.
Yeah, Uxie could actually bring this back potentially. There's no really good way to get rid of this Uxie. We see that the Urshifu does not carry the poison move, which it sometimes does, and Rock Slide is going to miss, so they get away with no damage from the Landorus' turn. Go straight for yet another Draining Kiss. They're going to barely miss the knockout onto the Landorus, but Uxie's got time. It can get that later.
Spirit Break going into Uxie, doing just a little bit of damage, is going to bring it back down to -1. You saw them hesitating there between clicking Mystical Power and Draining Kiss. It's tough to click Mystical Power when there's the option of a second Dark type on the other side.
Yeah, and when two Dark types are on the field, that's a good thing and a bad thing for this Uxie. It wants to click Mystical Power because Uxie's special attack is not very high. It's about Cresselia's level. But obviously it does get that Draining Kiss, which is going to be Terra boosted and super effective into both of the Dark types. Going to be able to do a huge chunk to that Urshifu. So this is still anyone's game.
Yeah, weirdly enough, even though this is a 3v1?
3-1.
3v1, Uxie
Landorus
could still
is kind of there.
Does connect the Rock Slide this time. Landorus has something to say about that. Does not get the flinch, however, so Draining Kiss is going to come through. Will finish off that Landorus, bringing it to a 2v1, and Uxie might be able to pick this up.
Yeah, like, I mean, Grimmsnarl's Spirit Breaks are definitely going to be annoying, but it's going to be really hard to KO this because that Urshifu is just going to be a huge...
Look at how little that does.
Yeah, that's just very little. Like, the special attack drop definitely annoying, but I don't know. I don't know my -2 Terra Fairy Mystical Draining Kiss onto Dark Urshifu calc. We'll have to see how much this does. Probably at least a 2-hit KO, I would think.
I would hope so.
I would hope for Uxie's sake, yes.
I would hope for Uxie's sake, but it's crazy to say that, yeah, no, Uxie's not out of this.
Yeah, Uxie could still come back and win this because Draining Kiss could just... It's kind of just Draining Kiss the whole way home. Like, Trick Room and Protect aren't really going to be helping too much. Once the Urshifu is off the field, though, protecting every other turn from Kobe's side might be the way to go. Wicked Blow, the strongest option. This is a solid chunk to that Uxie still. Voice Banded Urshifu does a lot of damage. The Draining Kiss follow-up, this is the moment of truth. How much does this do?
Very nearly a one-shot, and that's at -2. Uxie putting in a lot of damage there. Uxie might be able to take this home.
Yep, the Spirit Break going to lower this Uxie to -3 now, so it looks like Urshifu's going to get one more Spirit Break on it this time, but Draining Kiss going to be healing up that Uxie once again, and once Urshifu's off the field, Protect becomes a viable option, I think, for this Uxie. Just going to go for another Protect, going to try to get more Leftovers recovery without worrying about the Spirit Break this time. Leftovers are going to be big in this game.
Leftovers are going to be big, but Urshifu is still in play. That Wicked Blow is still going to go through. Wicked Blow going to break through, do a bunch of damage. Spirit Break, though, does not. So Uxie is still going to get some Leftovers recovery here.
Yep. Yep. Kobe did forget about Urshifu going through Protect. In these weird endgames, it's definitely easy to misplace those specific things, but Uxie still might be able to do this. The Wicked Blow going to do a nice chunk. Uxie does survive.
Still
might be able to.
Training Kiss is going to be able to pick up the Urshifu here. It could be just barely enough to let it survive the oncoming Spirit Break. 26 HP. How much is this going to do?
How much does Grimmsnarl do? Urshifu faints. Okay. This is big boy Grimmsnarl. Big Spirit Break. How much? 226. It does get the KO, so Uxie,
unfortunately,
narrowly able to make the 1v3 comeback. That was just game one.
That was just game one. Also, if I'm Kobe, I'm not going to be too upset about that because Uxie very nearly 1v3'd all of Jordan's, or 1v3'd 75% of Jordan's team, and that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that is, that's nuts. That's nuts. I don't know what to say. That's,
you might be hearing some of the outbursts from up there because yeah, people have emotions about this sort of thing.
Yeah, that game got people excited, and I can't blame them. That was a pretty good one. That was game one, so I think both players can look into game two thinking, okay,
now what?
That was a pretty even game, all things considered. I think both players can say, okay, I can probably play it a little bit better than I think they did game one. So Jourdan definitely had the early advantage, but lost that Gholdengo, which was that key piece that stopped Uxie from kind of steamrolling everything. The Terra Fairy being enormous there. So I think, yeah, Kobe might be looking to get a better early game, and Jourdan is probably going to be looking to conserve the right pieces so that he doesn't have such a tumultuous end game as game one.
Right. Jordan's not going to want to rely on a potential misplay in order to actually get the victory there, right? Because I think if the protect doesn't come through on that turn when Urshifu's still on the board, I think Kobe has that game.
Yeah, that's maybe a Spirit Break crit. What we'd have to see.
Maybe a Spirit Break crit could have gotten there, but I think if I'm Jourdan, I'm still going into this very careful because things can still definitely go very poorly. Uxie alone being able to make such a comeback is definitely something that has to be on the top of his mind.
Yeah, has to be very conscious of that. I think Kobe's also going to be looking to make sure that something to curb Grimmsnarl a little bit, because it was there the entire game, and it did a lot of damage with Spirit Breaks the whole time. So I think Kobe's going to be looking to maybe get an Iron Head onto that sooner rather than later.
I think, yeah, that would be very important. Grimmsnarl put in a lot of work in that game, and not in the way that Grimmsnarl typically puts in a lot of work. But we are jumping now into game two.
Yep, we'll have to see. I think both players could be looking towards both players for some adjustments here. So I'd be shocked if we see the same leads, but we'll have to see. It is going to be Gholdengo staying on the field, but it's going to be Urshifu instead, and Uxie staying on the field from last lead, but Kingambit switching instead. So very awkward spot for Kobe right off the bat. The speed is in Jordan's favor, and a lot of damage between a choice specs and a choice band on his Pokemon.
Yes, definitely a bit of an awkward spot for Kobe. Uxie doesn't super want to be here without terastallizing, but if you terastallize, then you're very weak to the choice specs, make it rain. Kingambit also doesn't really want to be here because of close combat on Urshifu, but it can't terastallize out of that weakness. And there aren't a lot of things that Kobe can switch in that would like to take a choice band in close combat. We see the Landorus was not brought to this game.
Yep, no Landorus this time. Like, this lead would be... Kobe would be able to handle this if they knew what moves Jourdan was locked into, but of course they don't. They don't have that luxury in this time, so they have to kind of piece this together. So Uxie is going to be preserved. Iron Hands is admittedly an excellent switch into the likes of these two Pokemon, and Kingambit, not Kingambit Terastal. I think it's going to be Jourdan going for a Terastallization onto the Gholdengo here. Going to be going to Terra Steel, doing absolutely preposterous damage with Make It Rain, and once again dropping that Dark weakness.
Yeah, we see the Wicked Blow coming out into the Iron Hands. Takes it a lot better than Uxie would have, that's for darn sure. And a Terra Steel Choice Specs Make It Rain going to follow that up, going to do a lot of damage. Iron Hands immediately brought under half. It's never something you want to see when you switch in Iron Hands.
Yeah, on 2 resisted hits, no less. That's a lot. The Kowtow Cleave following up into Gholdengo does do half of its HP. That's pretty nice here. So, Iron Hands, I think if you're Kobe, that's probably one of the better ways that turn could have played out, right? doesn't have a Pokemon KO'd, and Gholdengo commits Terra and is now -1 special attack, so it's a lot less threatening. So Iron Hand's probably able to survive the double up once again in this spot. And Kingambit's also safe, doesn't have to worry about close combat.
No, it does not. Not to mention, Kobe now has fake out pressure on their side, so they can they can now fake out either target. Gholdengo going to leave here, going to preserve that choice specs Terra Steel, make it rain for later. The past annoyance Grimmsnarl going to resurface here. Fake out correctly going into the Urshifu though. So no damage coming out from Jourdan this turn.
Really nice. We're going to see the Kowtow cleave though. Grimmsnarl can eat this up all day long. So yeah, Grimmsnarl now in a spot where it could potentially pick up the KO onto Iron Hands with a Spirit Break. We'll have to see. Iron Hands would love to Drain Punch Urshifu though, like so much, just to get all that HP back. But this is still kind of a dangerous spot for Jourdan here, where Urshifu doesn't really want to be in here, stuck in here wicked blowing, but, you know, can you afford to switch something in that won't take a huge amount of damage from Drain Punch now that your premier ghost type is not a ghost type anymore?
Right, yeah, after a very volatile turn 1, things are a little less volatile, but still pretty on edge, I'd say, for both sides. Wicked Blow going to go into Iron Hands. It's not going to be enough to pick it up, so unless there was a double up into that slot, Iron Hands could be sitting pretty. Is not, though. The double up does come through. Iron Hands does go down. Kingambit now does get to do something, but it doesn't have prime targets other than Iron Head, which is enough to pick up the Grimmsnarl.
Yep, I think Kobe was looking to get that Iron Head much earlier this game. Grimmsnarl quickly removed from the field. This Urshifu still stuck into Wicked Blow, but you know, still can't really do that much about it. Like, can't really do too much to this Kingambit. So yeah, removing the Grimmsnarl right off the bat is very important. Only had to trade that Iron Hands, but I think that's kind of okay, because you know, still it's a little bit more of an advantage because again, this Urshifu is not locked into the move it probably wants to against this Kingambit.
Yeah, I think I'm happy about that with Kobe, especially in light of the adjustment that we saw in the back, which is the Amoonguss that is going to be coming in here any second now.
Any second now.
Any second.
Okay. Oh, okay. We'll see. Gholdengo.
Gholdengo is resurfacing here.
it's burrowed underground. No,
burrowed underground, resurfacing onto the field.
It's not Dig Gholdengo. No, we have Amoonguss coming in. Not today.
Amoonguss comes out here. Amoonguss
in a precarious spot.
It's awkward, right? Amoonguss doesn't really want to take Make It Rains or Wicked Blows so much, but Kingambit can take both of those. We're even several turns in, we're still in. I feel like this game has been just a series of awkward turns.
It very much has, where like Amoonguss wants to like Rage Powder or Spore the Urshifu, and like Kingambit can't touch Urshifu either, so it kind of just has to go for another Kowtow Cleave into that Gholdengo to pick up the knockout there, but Gholdengo just sort of teased, gonna bait Kobe into playing around it, as Landorus is going to hit the field, and that's once again a Defiant boost for this Kingambit, so Kingambit being very impactful in this game too.
Yep, Defiant's going to activate here, bringing Kingambit to a juicy +1. Rage Powder going to come out to redirect the Wicked Blow. It's tough for Amoonguss. Amoonguss wants to Rage Powder away the Wicked Blow, which, oh man, that does a lot of damage. It also wants to Pollen Puff the Kingambit. It also wants to Spore the Urshifu. It's difficult. +1 Kowtow Cleave, not quite enough to pick up Landorus, though.
Yep, and now there's the awkward mind games where Kingambit can either Sucker Punch the Landorus if Landorus tries to stay in and Stomping Tantrum, or Kowtow Cleave expecting Landorus to, you know, potentially switch back into that Gholdengo. So still an awkward spot because I think at this point Jourdan's kind of committed to, okay, I'm going to stick Urshifu and you just keep clicking Wicked Blow and have everything else deal with the Kingambit. That's the only thing that can really handle the Wicked Blows at this point. Except for, of course, that Terra Fairy Uxie in the back, but it has not terastallized quite yet.
Meaning that it is very much not safe to switch it in this position. We do see Landorus is going to switch again, just sort of baiting potentially the Sucker Punch here. But Gholdengo's not really going to want to eat a +1 Kowtow Cleave. We do see Rage Powder come out from Amoonguss here, going to redirect the Wicked Blow, which is going to fell the Amoonguss promptly.
Yep, Amoonguss is going to get KO'd here, but it does a very important job of keeping that Kingambit in pristine shape. We do see Kingambit did not go for the Sucker Punch, did go for Kowtow Cleave, gets that call right. Gholdengo swiftly taken off the field, and now this Urshifu locked into Wicked Blow. And I don't know how many turns have been going on so far, but it might be running out of Wicked Blow PP any moment now.
Yeah, eventually you're gonna not be able to. You're gonna blow so hard that you're not gonna be able to blow anymore. Landorus coming back out onto the field is going to give Kingambit their boost here. Kingambit now sitting at +2 in front of an Urshifu that is locked into Wicked Blow. And a Choice Scarf Landorus, meaning Sucker Punches. Sorry, no, this is Assault Vest. So either way, Sucker Punch is free real estate.
Yeah, free real estate. And Uxie was very carefully preserved with that Terra Fairy intact, so it can very easily 1v1 this Urshifu. So looks like a Sucker Punch plus a Terra Fairy Draining Kiss will be all she wrote here. And that should be able to bring Kobe into a... have Kobe bring us to a Game 3. Have to see how if Jourdan can weasel his way out of this. It's going to be tough.
This is, yeah, going to be difficult to be able to win out if you are Jourdan. We are going to see the terrestrialization come onto the Uxie. You see it dons the heart helmet, or the heart cap, as it did in the previous game. See if it'll be able to take it home this time.
Well, it only has to get KO 2 Pokemon, now 1, so Uxie almost did the 1v3, so I think it might have this. The Sucker Punch does KO Landorus at that +2, huge damage. The Wicked Blow, kind of hoping that Uxie does not terrestrialize, as we see that definitely would have KO'd were it still a Psychic type. The Draining Kiss, though, easily going to be enough. Not at -2 special attack. Does get the KO, so Kobe is going to be taking Game 2 here, and we have a series.
We have a series. We have a Game 3. That was a very tumultuous Game 2. So some really awkward turns. Definitely could have gone either way.
Yeah. I feel like the story of this set is like, I'm not quite, if I'm either player, I'm not quite too pleased of how that went. It was just a very awkward sort of matchup where like Kingambit is in a great spot suddenly and then can suddenly be in a really bad spot. Like it's very meticulous. They have to be very deliberate on how they play the matchup.
It's very touch and go. Gholdengo as well. If it doesn't terrestrialize, oh, it has to worry a lot about Kingambit. Oh, I have to switch it out because it's suddenly at -1 and now it's not doing as much damage. Oh, Iron Hands is on the other side. Gholdengo's not going to do that much. I can't switch in Landers freely because Kingambit is still there. And I didn't lock into Wicked Blow. And it's
very tricky.
It's very tricky. There's a lot of back and forth and a lot of stuff that can potentially happen here. Like, yeah, I don't know if I can emphasize how either way that game could have gone.
Absolutely. That turn 1, there are a lot of, like, in all the ways that turn 1 can play out, a lot of them I think go in Jourdan's favor and not in Kobe's, but Kobe definitely navigated that really well to get a lot of value out of that turn 1, more than I expected they would be able to get out of it, really. So now I think it's gonna be up to Jourdan to try to make it so that the Kingambit cannot just get 3 knockouts. Because I was just thinking about it. Kingambit got all the KOs except for the Urshifu at the very end. Right? It got the Sucker Punch KO onto Landorus. It got the KO onto the Grimmsnarl, and it KO'd the Gholdengo with the Kowtow Cleave. So Kingambit's a big threat that I think Jourdan is going to be a little bit more respectful of. Just locking into Wicked Blow and not weaving in that close combat really hurt him.
Yeah, I have to wonder if Landorus on Jourdan's side doesn't come this game, because it wasn't super impactful other than directly benefiting Kingambit.
Yeah, Kingambit was like, please, Landorus, come. I would love that.
In both games 1 and 2, so I have to wonder, is Landorus left at home? And if so, what comes in its place? Is it that Iron Bundle, perhaps?
Could be Iron. I mean, the Icy Wind's also going to be boosting that Kingambit, so it's kind of an...
Well, you don't click that.
Yeah, maybe the Rillaboom. I could see Rillaboom having a place here. But though giving healing over to the Kingambit's also a tricky proposition. This is such an interesting matchup. This is so tense as we jump into Game 3 here.
I am corrected immediately. Landorus is indeed brought and led in game number 3 here. Landorus and Urshifu out against Iron Hands and Kingambit. But turn 1, here we go again. Defiance.
Defiant once again on the field. Kingambit is healthy enough to probably survive a Stomping Tantrum, I think. I should know that, Cal, probably. But the Iron Hands fake out pressure is going to be pretty impactful here. Going to be able to help stop this Urshifu for at least one turn, give Kingambit some room where it doesn't have to worry about a potential close combat that way. And we do see Kobe immediately adjusted what they brought as well, not bringing the Amoonguss this time, instead having Landorus in the back. Seems like a pretty nice option, especially in the front of these two Pokemon.
Maybe recognizing that, hey, Amoonguss didn't actually do that much last game other than going down to Wicked Blow, although redirecting it was important. Landorus, as always, pretty good switch into Landorus.
Always the good switch into Landorus. The Wicked Blow is the option of choice. Does just cleanly Oko Landorus on the switch in, though. That critical hit does not care about Intimidate, so Landorus, as soon as it was here, is now gone. Stomping Tantrum at -1, not going to do too much to that Iron Hand, so Iron Hands is going to be able to fire off a Drain Punch, and even at -1, is a 2-hit KO onto this Urshifu, so I think I'm kind of okay with that if I'm Kobe.
Yeah, it being a 2-hit KO even at -1, I think is pretty critical. It's unfortunate to lose Landorus immediately in turn number 1, but you do get an Intimidate on the opposing Landorus, which, if nothing else, will help you out your other Pokemon.
Yeah, and now, like, just knowing what this Urshifu is locked into is such an important thing. Knowing it's locked into that Wicked Blow means that this Terra Fairy from Uxie, which is kind of forced, but at the same time, you kind of don't mind it as well, because at this point, Uxie can start potentially snowballing with those mystical powers, because, yeah, you can have two things that don't really have to care about Wicked Blow, and this Landorus, once again, from Jourdan's side, is intimidated.
You do have to be careful about clicking Mystical Power, though. That Grimmsnarl could always be lurking in the back, and considering how much work it did in Game 1, I would not be surprised at all to see it come in Game 2. Or, excuse me, Game 3.
This is Game 3. Yeah, so, yeah, Grimmsnarl definitely could be in the back, so a little bit tricky, so it might just be the Mystical... the Training Kiss option for this Uxie, as it does once again 3 for 3 on the Terra Fairy option here. Makes a lot of sense. We have not seen the other two Pokemon from Jourdan, so there could actually be a Gholdengo waiting in the back to go for a big Make It Rain there. Wicked Blow, all but forcing that Terra Fairy out of that Uxie. Uxie takes that, of course, much better now. Landorus is just going to switch out, keep itself and its Intimidate around for a little bit later. There's a little bit of chip to Iron Hands, but probably not going to be too impactful. This might... No, let's see what's actually going to be in the back. It might be probably Grimmsnarl or Gholdengo, but Gholdengo is going to be the one coming out here, ready to prey on this now Terra Fairy Uxie.
Although, Jourdan not the only one with pivoting here. Kobe going to pivot out their Iron Hands. And we do see Kingambit in the back here. Kingambit does come back in here, and once again, Kingambit now in a really solid spot. There's a Landorus in the back. Wait, right? Am I forgetting something?
Yeah, there's the Landorus in the back, but Uxie just set up Trick Room, so now Kingambit is on the field in front of this Gholdengo with Trick Room up. Once again, two things that resist Dark, so this Urshifu is still not having a great time here. That Trick Room might be huge.
Trick Room definitely more beneficial for Kobe than for Jourdan here. With Iron Hands in the back, Kobe definitely has the slower Pokemon, can take more advantage of the Trick Room here, and Kingambit once again sitting in front of two things that cannot hit it very well.
Kingambit is such a menace. It's also threatening the Gholdengo with the Kowtow Cleave. It's sort of saying, okay, Terra, or you get KO'd immediately, or Terra right now, and then Iron Hands will just pick you up with a Drain Punch later on. So both these trainers forcing each other into Thrastalizations they might want one to go for, but I think Kobe's Terra Fairy is a lot harder for Jourdan to punish.
I certainly would say so. Kowtow Cleave is going to come out, still do a good amount of damage to Gholdengo, still a pretty clean 2-hit KO, might be a roll here. We do see the Terra Steel Choice Specs Make It Rain doing a decent chunk of damage, but these are not the prime targets for that.
Wicked Blow into the Kingambit does a lot of damage, though that's a huge chunk, but Kingambit is importantly able to survive, and now Kobe, with the speed advantage, thanks to the Trick Room, might be able to pick up a double knockout here. Kowtow Cleave plus a Drain Punch seems pretty safe here. The only option Jourdan could potentially switch, does have some switch-ins here with probably the Grimmsnarl, as well as the Landorus would be able to weaken that Iron Hands, but you'd be switching in and giving Kingambit a free Defiant boost once again.
You do not want to give Kingambit Wow. Kingambit, a Defiant boost at this stage when it is one of the fastest Pokemon on the field. We do see Gholdengo leaving. Is it going to be that Landorus? It's not. Okay, Grimmsnarl is going to handle any potential Kowtow cleaves a whole lot better. Is not going to love taking Drain Punches, though. Kingambit does fire off the Kowtow cleave. Grimmsnarl takes that very well.
Yep, Grimmsnarl, prime target for that. But we did see, now that this Trick Room is still up, this Grimmsnarl does not have Protect nor Fake Out, so there's nothing stopping a potential Iron Head into that Grimmsnarl next turn. And Iron Hands is still free to kind of do whatever it wants. It's going to be hard to get rid of this because Landorus is the only way to do that. But that's just more attack power for Kingambit.
Kingambit once again getting another Defiant boost. Still hasn't been dealt with. I think we haven't.
This is so tricky.
Yeah, this is tough. I still think Iron Hands and Kingambit are definitely in the better spot here. Landorus is at full health though, so can definitely take a few hits. And Grimmsnarl has just gotten here and is pretty healthy as well. It's not over, but I think things are looking really good for Kobe.
Yeah, it's really tricky though. The current board position definitely favors Kobe, I think. But if you think about this, there's one Pokemon in the back for both players. There's a Terra Fairy Uxie and a Terra Steel Gholdengo. One of those definitely beats the other, so I think those Pokemon are also not on the field right now. Well, one of them is now that Uxie's been switched in, but those are going to be very key players in this endgame here. Iron Hands is going to switch out. The Iron Head is going to quickly remove Grimmsnarl, so that's off the board. Grimmsnarl is gone. So Jourdan is going to have to be forced into that Terra Steel Gholdengo right after this, as the Stomping Tantrum will make quick work of this Kingambit. So a 1-for-1 trade here, and this is going down to the wire.
Down to the wire. I've not been counting my Trick Room turns. Uxie gets a little bit of leftovers recovery. It does have the ability to slowly heal up, so it does have that going for it. Iron Hands is going to come back in here, as well as the Gholdengo. How many turns of Trick Room are left?
I think that's gonna, if there's at least one more turn of Trick Room left, which I think there should be, then this Gholdengo is just a Drain Punch away. Yep, Trick Room. Yep, last turn of Trick Room. This is timed perfectly for Kobe. Easy Drain Punch into this Choice Specs Gholdengo. Now Uxie versus the Landorus. This is a bulky Landorus, but I don't think Landorus has enough in the tank to KO this Uxie. Uxie can, of course, heal up with those Draining Kisses, boost up with this power, has the leftovers, has Protect. Kind of all stacked, I think, in this Uxie's favor if it is a 1v1 scenario, which I think this Iron Hands is going to be primed to make it, as that Drain Punch does KO that Gholdengo.
Bringing us down to a 1v2, and I think even if it was a 1v1, Uxie is in a prime position to sort of win this 1v1 on its own, thanks to Levitate and the Terra Fairy typing. It can sit pretty comfortably in front of Assault Vest Landorus and say that, okay, you have an Assault Vest, that's great. Eventually, that's not going to matter.
Yeah, the mystical power right now, that boost counteracting the Assault Vest right there at this point. You see that because of the Drain Punch recovery, Iron Hand's going to be able to tank that Stomping Tantrum as well. So I think, yeah, Uxie, as you said, Uxie can probably do this on its own, but it also has support from Iron Hands, where Landorus kind of has to divide its attention a little bit. This one does not have Earthquake. Even if it did, it only hits one of the targets. So Uxie might be, taking some revenge from game one, where it, didn't quite get to pull off the end game there, but it looks like it's going to be able to in this game 3.
I don't really see anything stopping it unless Landorus is able to land a lot of critical hits in very short order. Well, first it's going to start by getting rid of the Iron Hands on the opposing side.
Well, okay, we are now in a spot where we might have to say that dreaded phrase, where there's a rock slide, there's a way. Landorus does have Rock Slide. There is an option where maybe it does enough to counteract the leftovers recovery, but Uxie can also just alternating protects to get more recovery, which, yeah, Kobe is definitely keen on doing here and smartly for doing so. Ugh, Jourdan is going to have to be...
There's the Rock Slide!
There's Rock Slide. All right, okay.
Where there's a Rock Slide, there's a way. Get it embroidered on a pillow, folks.
Yeah, with a Landorus right next to it.
With a little Landorus smiley face.
Yeah. Pokemon Company, please. That would be a great merchandise. I'd buy that. I'd buy that. All right, Rock Slide. Here we see. Do we get the flinch? It's not a lot of damage, though. No flinch. Third mystical power. Uxie is now at +3 attack. Now, I think a Draining Kiss from this amount of special attack boost should be enough to get the knockout here. if Koei wants to play this safe, probably just go for once again another protect. Kind of no reason not to. Very, very meticulous after kind of fumbling that last endgame in game 1. Not going to throw this one away. Be dotting their I's, crossing all their T's to get that every scrap of leftovers recovery you can get.
And underline the word leftovers, because that's important to keep Uxie around here. If Jourdan wants to win this, he's going to need Rock Slide to crit and flinch and do everything else that it can possibly do. We do see it connect. That's step 1. We don't get to step 2, however, and Terra Fairy Draining Kiss is going to come out and KO this Landorus.
Whoa, that was a wonderful endgame. Uxie cleaning it up there, showing why it is on this team. Why it is not just a second-rate Cresselia. Cresselia could not have done that. Cresselia does not get Draining Kiss.
Or Mystical Power.
Or Mystical Power. Really well played, I think. Really well played, both players. That was a phenomenal set. I am so glad I got to watch that.
That was a lot of fun to watch.
That was wonderful.
That's the kind of fun stuff you get at local events. So come on down to CardArt in Sunnyvale, California, and you can play around with people that run this sort of fun stuff.
Yeah, really great community. Also, I would plug this later, but might as well now. There's also the NorCal Discord if you're in the area. Oh my god, I almost got it. Uxie's great. If you want to join that wonderful community here we have, but I think that's going to take it all for us for round 3. Man, that was a good set. Oh, if this is just round 3, we still got round 4, round 5, and then all of Top Cut. So, yeah, get some popcorn. This is going to be a pretty good tournament, I'm thinking. So, we'll see you all then. Don't go anywhere for round 4.
See ya.